So in this lecture, I'll be talking about border properties. Certainly this topic is quite extensive and there will be a lot more properties that I can cover here. However, I do refer you to the CSS documentation. It will list many properties and many different ideas that you could use, but I'll give you a rundown of all the fundamental basics and the core knowledge that you need to work with borders. So you might have noted in previous lectures that the border of a box is just border. And then I did something like solid previously, solid, and then black, and then something like 2 pixels. And of course, the order of this does not matter. So I have a 300 by 300 box here, which is just div tag, right? ID box, div tag here. And then solid means it's going to be a solid border. Black means the color of the border will be black, and then 2 pixels means it will be 2 pixels thick. So let me demonstrate this. So there we go, 2 pixels thick. Certainly, if I change this property, make it 6. Okay, now it's 6 pixels thick. And then here I could just make it green, for instance, right? So I've changed the color now. I just made it solid. There are other types of border properties that exist. For example, dotted border style. It's called border style, which I'll show in a moment. And dotted, so I could say dashed, for example. Dashed is another one. There are other ones that exist, which you can look up in the documentation. For example, here I could also say grooved or something. I think it's grooved, or is it grooved? Let's just see. Yes, it's groove. So that's how that looks like. Another one is ridge, the following way, and I think I covered most of them. Let me see, I think double also exists. Okay. I think here you have to have a border width property. You can always look at the documentation for the double border. But right now, I'm just going to discuss each of these one by one. So instead of using the shorthand method here of something like solid, instead of using the shorthand method for creating borders, you can sort of use other properties. You can sort of say border style, dotted border dash width 8 pixels, and then border dash color. You also use American spelling, say red. Now, of course, because these come after this border property, it should override this property. So you can either delete it manually, or you could just leave these since they will override this one. They will take precedence because programming typically goes from top to bottom, right? So there you go. So we have okay, perhaps the degree property still here. Well, actually, I misspelled the statement here. Statement error. Yeah, consequently. And then here I could just go solid, or I could just go dashed, for example. There you go. So it goes dashed and border width here, and then border color. I could also just go one by one, like on each border here. Like I could just put a border on the right side. I could put a border on the left side. I could put a border on the top, and I could put a border on the bottom. So for example, if I just remove the statement here, border style dashboard. Okay, so I'm just gonna go border top red 2 pixels, and I'm gonna make it solid the following way. Now I'm just gonna remove a lot of the stuff here. Now I'm just gonna refresh. As you can see, the border now at the top is solid, and it's just in a similar fashion. I could actually have a border at the bottom if I wanted to, so I could just say border bottom. It's very semantic, so very solid. Instead, I could just have here dashed. I have a dash border here, and at the bottom I have a dash border, and you can also go for left and right as well. So border left. Let's just make it blue. Groove, I believe. Groove. So let's see how that looks. There you go. So I have a groove border at this side, and I could say border right. And so in the same fashion, border right. I could just make it yellow or something. Yellow, 8 pixels. Then I could just say ridge. So that's my ridge border here. And there's some cool little trick that I'll teach you called the border radius property. Border radius, so it just gives like the radius of the border. You can just go 2 pixels. You can use these absolute units, but I'll show percentages quite soon. So let's see here. Let me just go back to black. So border 2 pixels, black, solid. Again, the order of these values does not really matter. Okay, so we got back our property, and there's some kind of border radius here, which is it's not quite visible. Let me just demonstrate. If I use a much larger radius, so for example, if I use 2 pixels, as you can see here, there's a bit of a curve towards the edges, and if I just increase this further, say 25 pixels. Interestingly here, I could also use percentages, so for example, I could just use 10%. There you go, 10%, 20%. I could also just make this entire box a circle by going 50% here. 50%, there you go, so our border radius is now 50%, so now I've made it a circle in the following way. And I believe this would cover most of the border properties that you will need, and certainly there are other ideas here that might exist out there. you could just look at the documentation. But for most of the applications that you will encounter in the real world or in your own projects, you will probably require most of these properties for all practical purposes. Thank you very much.